I've been walking beneath streetlights. I've been walking, cause I can't find peace on these nights. I've been walking, but my strides are getting slower. Still I'm walking, but I don't know where I'm going. I've been looking for love, but only found deception. Told my secrets to some people who have not been.
What's going on? What's going on? You caught me drinking my water. Welcome to Urban Renal Talk with Tamika Steve. My partner Tamika will be here shortly. But thank you for joining us. Look, share this broadcast. This is going to be an awesome show. We have a renal dietitian here, and we're going to go over nutrition and blood test results. This is very important to kidney warriors. Whether you're doing home dialysis or in-center dialysis, you need to understand what you're reading. You know, when I worked in dialysis, there have been many warriors, and I kid you not, there was a lot of warriors when the dietitian would bring them their lab results, right? And they give it to them, and they really didn't have time to go over it, but they'll hand it to them, and if it was something a little bit out of line, they may go over just a minute. But then after treatment is over and I return the blood and the patient get up and leave, I look over and the damn paper with the results in the trash can. I'm not going in the trash can and get it out. I mean, that biohazard, but it just showed me that education is needed because for someone to get lab results, and then after the dietitian goes over some important lab results, they throw them away. I mean, it makes you think like we need to really educate. So this show is very important. We don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to bring on our guest, and she's going to definitely give you some great information. So we're going to, as we do with all our guests, we're going to give them the very special guest welcome. Here we go. Without further ado, Jessianna Saville. Hey, Jess, how you doing?
I love your special welcome. That was awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. You deserve it.
Come on.
Yeah, you deserve it. Absolutely. How you doing?
I'm doing great tonight. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. No problem. No problem. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and coming on Urban Renal Talk with Tamika and Steve. I mean, we know that nutrition is very important to patients dealing with renal disease, whether they're in one of the 5 stages or they're in complete renal failure. How does your journey start with, as far as being a dietitian, ended up in kidney, working in kidney disease patient? And before you start, I'd like to welcome my host, no other than Tamika Gaines. Let me give her the special guest treatment. The lovely Tamika. Good
How
news.
you
What's up,
doing?
Tamika?
Hey, what's
Tamika,
going on?
nice to meet you.
How are you?
Doing great, thank you.
Yeah, Tamika, this is Jess, dietitian out of Cape Canaveral, Florida.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So Jess was about to tell us her story before we get into the blood test results. So
Okay.
go ahead, Jess.
Okay, so yeah, I think that working with in this area, in the world of kidney disease for kidney health, was just one of my callings in life. My senior year of college, we had to do a practicum before we graduated, where we, do something kind of intensive in our field. And I covered for a dietitian in a dialysis unit while she went on sabbatical to Spain. I don't think you can still do that now, but
Right.
I could do that. And I just really fell in love with this world. I love, as a job, being able to interact with people on a continuous basis. Like, it's not one and done. I don't work in dialysis now. Now I see people before dialysis, but when I worked in dialysis, I loved that they were like part of your family. Like, you see them all the time, every single week. You have that, relationship with them. So anyways, after I finished my internship, I went and worked in inner city hospital, Harbor Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland, for a couple years. And then I went and did some missionary work overseas. And then I came back and I knew I had to be a dialysis. So that was my next job. And ever since then, I worked several dialysis units, Maryland, Texas, and then started my private practice to help people before dialysis to either be healthier if they had to end up on dialysis or to avoid it.
What part of Texas were you in?
We were in College Station.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was in Houston, but wow. Huh?
Not too far from us there.
Yeah. I was a travel nurse at the time. But Jess, before we talk about the blood test results that most patients on dialysis get each month or bi-weekly, can you just explain to our audience, because it seemed like you switched over from not working in dialysis to prevention. How important is nutrition in fighting diabetes, hypertension, and kidney disease when you're in between stage 1 and 5?
I'm so glad you asked me that question. I'm so passionate about this topic. Nutrition is the biggest missed opportunity for anyone with kidney disease to preserve their function. The research is like overwhelmingly positive, and I can say, like, from what I see with the people I work with, like, the results are phenomenal. People have phenomenal results by changing their diet and kind of tackling pieces that play into filtration of the kidneys. I mean, to simplify it, this is very simplistic. The kidneys are basically an organ of filtration, right? They have other roles, but they are an organ of filtration. And if you know how to put the right things through that organ so you don't clog it up, you can really have a huge impact. I cannot overemphasize how incredibly powerful food is. Either way, for in my practice, we say we're working towards kidney health, not against kidney disease. So if you're working towards kidney health, it's so powerful. It can work, obviously, the other way as well, but it really is just a great opportunity for people. You don't have to be on the slippery slope to dialysis if you're willing to make some changes.
I mean, can someone still do that on a fixed diet? Because, I mean, I'm just going to be real. There's a lot of, people, African Americans and some whites, but majority African Americans that are on low fixed income that deal with this disease. So even on a fixed budget, could one still maintain healthy kidney function if they
Here's that. Yeah, you absolutely can. So one myth is that healthy food is expensive, but I'll tell you where this myth is wrong, is that very convenient healthy food is expensive, but healthy food is not expensive. I mean, rice, a bag of rice will cost you like $1.50. You can do like 4 meals with it. You can do beans pre-dialysis, you can do beans on dialysis too, but beans are something you can do. They are so cheap. If you're willing to just cook a little bit it doesn't have to cost you a lot at all. You absolutely can do a healthy diet that preserves your kidney function, even if you have a lower income. Absolutely, like it's no problem at all.
Right. Do you think that if the patients was really shown the meal versus y'all just telling them to try this, but if the meal was actually made, more people will eat from the renal diet?
So I think it depends on the person a little bit. I think any of us, when we see, something, like when we can actually visualize what we're doing, we can appreciate it more. I feel like a really good dietitian should work in levels. So you explain a principle, then you explain, usually, so we'll explain the principle behind it. Then we'll explain maybe some of the foods that fit in that principle. And then for the icing on the cake, you should absolutely be explaining specific meals, not just a food list. And when you get into that specific meals, some of the meal planning, that sort of thing, there's a lot of magic there, because then people are like, oh, I get how it all kind of fits together. And oh, I have way more flexibility than I thought I did. And if you work in those kind of levels, then yeah, you can make a lot of progress. It's nice to have that. I know I need that when I test out all the different diets we do, and when we're doing a specific one for polycystic kidney disease right now, it's tough. And so I have to have that picture in my head to follow it myself. And I know that that's what people need to.
Right. Wow.
Inside the market, they have a place for diabetics and stuff like that. Do you think that they should put a section for kidney-friendly foods?
That's a really good question. Here's the problem, is that there isn't technically a renal diet. Every person is so individualized. Even in dialysis, you can have people that need a lot of potassium. You can have people that need a little potassium. So it's really a misnomer for us to say a low potassium, low phosphorus, low sodium diet is right for everyone with kidney disease, because you're missing so many pieces, and it's not, for some people that is not what they need. The other problem is there's quite a bit of controversy over what fits within each of those categories themselves. So I think it would be pretty complicated to do that within the grocery store. It's much better if you can teach people, the saying, don't give a man a fish, teach him how to fish. I think it's much better to teach people how to fish, so that they have more options in the grocery store. They're not limited by here's the renal friendly food. Instead, they can say, my favorite food is this, and how do I fit it in my diet and stay healthy? There's so much power of choice there, and that's really what you should do.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. All right, I know you don't have a lot of time tonight, but we definitely want to bring you back on, because I want to talk about post-transplant meals and dietary. I mean, we can be probably for a whole hour talking about that, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. So definitely invite you back on. Maybe next Thursday. I got to talk to Tamika and see if she got anybody planned. But great topic. But let's talk about these blood tests right quick and how important it is for patients to kind of stay in these ranges to live an optimum healthy life. So albumin is the first one on our list. How important the goal of albumin is 4.0 or higher. How important is it for a patient's albumin level to stay above 4.0?
Okay, so I got to preface this. Albumin is the most misunderstood and the most controversial lab that is out there within the medical professionals. So the reason this is a hot topic is that the research shows that if your albumin is 4.0 or higher, that you will have a lower mortality rate, meaning you're going to live longer. What has happened with that lab, unfortunately, is people are like, oh, okay, well, how do we get it high? And they're like, oh, well, albumin's protein. So if you eat more protein, then you'll be able to keep that number higher. That is 100% totally inaccurate. And it is something that is unfortunately mistaught in dialysis, is that protein, push so much protein, And that actually doesn't help raise your albumin. Albumin is really, truly a sign of inflammation, and which makes more sense when it comes to seeing why it's such an impactful lab. Because obviously if you have a lot of inflammation in your body, then you're not going to do as well and you're not going to live as long. One other thing that's important about that number is a normal human albumin is actually 3.5 or above. So that 3.5 to 4.0 area, you can get a lot of flack for not getting it up to that 4.0 area by your doctor, your dietitian, like, hey, eat more eggs, eat more meat because you're not at 4. But honestly, if you're 3.5 or above, that's a normal human albumin. And meat isn't necessarily the gold standard for nutrition in a lot of ways for people that have kidney disease, in so many ways. So, the value for a patient is this. Number one, you must know your trends. So if from month to month, you see your albumin was 4.0, then 3.9, then 3.7, and it's trending down, that's a huge sign for you to think about, like, what might be going on with me? And not just eat more meat, like, where do I have inflammation?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, just can I add something right quick, what you said about the cause of that? And some things that can contribute to these low albumins include infection, wounds, gum disease, and then if a person has a catheter, that can contribute to it as well, right?
You got it. It's inflammation, right? All of those things are causing inflammation. That's why it will drop it. And it's crazy to think like, hey, like I have gum disease, so let me eat a whole bunch more chicken and my albumin's gonna go up. Like, no, that's not, chicken's not gonna solve your gum disease.
You gotta treat that.
You gotta treat that and your albumin will come up. So that's really, albumin is a great marker to know because it gives you kind of this temperature measure of how you're doing with inflammation in your body. And, there's other things you want to target. If that number's running low for you and you're like, man, like I eat pretty good. I'm eating plenty of meat. If you're eating 2 or more like good servings of meat a day, that really is probably plenty of protein for you. And you want to look at different factors and work with your team to figure out what other things might be causing inflammation for me, and see if you can target those, and that number will come up and overall your health improves then.
Awesome. All right.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Tamika.
Now I was going to ask: Is there an easier way to explain albumin to patients, whereas though they will understand it?
The way that I always explained it with my patients is that it was a sign of inflammation. And the way that I think of inflammation is, flame, like fire, right? So if you have fire in your tissues, that creates pain and problems. That's generally how I would explain it. As we say, how do we get the flames out so that you're not having so much fire in your body and you can bring that number up.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let me just take a quick second. My partner, she's going to log off. She's tired. So we're going to continue the interview. Tamika, have a good night, baby.
Welcome back, Steve. Good night.
Yeah.
I was at work since 4 o'clock this morning and I
oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. You should have told me. I love you, and we talk tomorrow.
All right,
baby. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right. Sorry about that, guys. And I know you don't have much time yourself, but what I'm going to do is
30 minutes. Yeah.
Huh?
We got a good chunk of time now.
Okay. I'm going to highlight some of the important labs that I feel that's critical that patients should really focus on. And the next one, which is a big one, is phosphorus. Well, wait a minute. Let me before I go to that, let me do calcium, because we know with a high calcium, a patient can get calciophylaxis. And so the corrected calcium corrected, as one of the big organizations call it, their goal is 8.4 to 10.2. Now, how important is calcium to patients, because let me tell you something. I've been doing dialysis 33 years. And back in the 90s, I worked with a gentleman, and over the years, I mean, he was tall. Then next thing I know, over the years, it looked like he shrunk. And he had always had issues with calcium. He was getting high amounts of, calcium decreasing or whatever, calcijex and whatever. But it looked like he had to end up in a wheelchair, and it just looked like he shrunk. How important is calcium so patients would know, so they don't fall in this type of position?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, all of your bone labs, like calcium, are super critical, and it's not even the physical manifestation, right? What internally is happening when that level gets high is far more serious, because your blood vessels, instead of being nice and flexible and, blood can go expand and contract, instead they are getting hard. And if your blood vessels are like lead pipes, you are more likely to have a heart attack or a stroke or that sort of thing. So calcium's a big one. It's usually not an incredibly hard one. Sometimes it can be hard, but most of the time it's a fairly simple, something pretty simple to fix. If it's dietary, generally it's from people eating calcium fortified foods. You're like, oh, I found this like great apple juice and it's, fortified with calcium, or, oftentimes we'll see calcium fortified foods, or else you'll see people are having a lot of heartburn, and so they're popping Tums all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They'll throw their calcium up, but those usually are little things like that. If you've had maybe you have a little bit too much of a vitamin D analog, the vitamin D that they give you at the unit, sometimes that could bump up, but the dietitians watch that like a hawk, so they should be bringing it down. But I mean, you have every right as a patient to say, hey, like my calcium is high. Do you have any ideas what that might be? What can I do to help bring it down? Because you definitely want to keep it lower. The true goal that you really want to aim for, 10.2 is what you're going to see on your labs, but really want to keep it closer down to that 9.5 to 9.7 level or below.
Now,
so I was aiming for that.
You were saying about patients asking questions, but a lot of times you get patients that get hit with renal disease, and they may be still overwhelmed or going through grief and unable to accept what's happening. How do we impact patients to be aware of their labs each month? Because as I mentioned, some people get these papers and throw it in the trash or leave it at the table when they get up to leave. But how can we convince them that this is a big part of their care to live a quality life still on dialysis?
Yeah, so Steve, honestly, any conversation like that, if you're a care provider, comes down to your relationship with a patient, period. Like I have no impact on a patient. I mean, there's some people that are hungry for information. They want to know, they're going to preserve their health, do whatever they can. But otherwise, a lot of people get into dialysis. They're scared for good reasons, and it's so many changes, and they don't feel good, etc. A great care team will take time to build a relationship with you so that you can ask questions and they can guide you, and they can, they can nudge you with like, hey, like this might be out of bounds for you. Like, let's talk about how it's an easy fix. It doesn't always have to be an overwhelming fix. And if you feel like you're overwhelmed with dialysis, then just take a step back and you just do one little thing at a time. One question at a time is what you have to do. You don't have to know it all right away, but I guarantee you, if you want to ask questions, I mean, all the dietitians I've ever known, they are eager to work with people that want to know. So I think that's a really critical part.
Mm-hmm. Are dietitians able to accept, like if you have your own practice like you do, and you may have some people say, oh, I can't afford a dietitian. I can't. Do you accept like Medicare or Medicaid, or do you have, not just you, but do they have it set up where like a sliding scale to help with income adjustments?
That's a good question. So when I started my practice, we accepted insurance, and it was a crash and burn for us. Like, insurance was a nightmare to work with. So we stopped accepting it because I can't help anybody
Sure.
if I can get paid. And it's like pull a teeth get paid from insurance.
Right.
But there are definitely dietitians that do accept insurance, and oftentimes you'll find that there are help out there. I know our sister company, the nonprofit Renal Line, we just are piloting right now our program, and the 40 people that are in our pilot, we're doing it totally free for them. So there's not a lack of resources for people that are motivated and that want to make change.
They just gotta look for
right?
it.
It's a resource. It's free. Like, if you want to find an answer, it's out there. And if you feel overwhelmed by finding an answer, that's where you dial into your social worker. And your social worker should be able to have the time to help you figure out what's the root cause of, like, the fear, the discomfort, whatever is going on, so you can make some progress.
I agree. Absolutely. Okay, so our next blood test is phosphorus. I mean, I know that's a big one with a lot of people. 3.0 to 5.5 is what the range they have on here, the reference range. But how big of important is phosphorus? Because information says, or scientific data says, too much phosphorus can cause serious bone and heart problems, itching, sores, and red eyes. How important is this? Because phosphorus is almost in everything.
Yeah, it is. So, phosphorus, what you said, it's a big deal. When it is physically manifesting, honestly, I could see the people. If I was new to unit, I could walk down and I could see the people that had been on dialysis for a while and had poor phosphorus, because they'd have some sores on their arm from itching. And I could pick them out pretty quickly, and I was like, okay, like, I know that there's some work here that we can work on together, so that they're not so uncomfortable. But even before it manifests outwardly, which, itchy red eyes, itchy skin, that's really where people are like, oh, I can't stand this, I'll do whatever it takes to make it stop. Before that, the internal damage is very serious, and it starts way, 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 way before dialysis. So the key, though, right? The key is the number one thing, the most important thing you can do to get your phosphorus down is to look at your labels, period. Like, it is not about knowing all about beans and grains and, these like whole foods. It is about looking at your labels. I can't remember what the study said, but it was a significant amount of the phosphorus that people consume is actually from processed foods. Phosphorus is used as an anti-caking agent, so you'll see it in like Country Time lemonade, so that the Country Time lemonade doesn't congeal into a cemented clump. It's used as a flavor enhancer. That's why the cola drinks have phosphoric acid in it, because it's a nice flavor, right?
Yes.
You'll see it everywhere. It is ubiquitous. It is absolutely all over the place. But if you will read your labels, all you have to look for is PHOS, phos. That's it. And it'll be in big words: hexametaphosphate, phosphoric acid. I can't remember all the other ones. We have a blog on it on my website. No,
I know exactly what you're talking about, because one time I went into the Dollar General and showed the foods that had it and the phos, all the different phosphates in it. I mean, there's so many. It's unbelievable. And I can see how people or kidney warriors who undergo dialysis, if they don't know what to look for, don't have the education, how they can fall right into that trap of having a high phosphorus. And then you said itching and everything, and they'll do anything to get rid of it. But they may be going outside the source thinking it's something else when it's really the diet.
Right. Yeah. So it's huge. And Steve, honestly, even for you or I, you're not on dialysis, I'm not on dialysis, we should not be consuming those inorganic phosphates either. That's what they're called. Your body absorbs 100% of them. And some of the scientific literature has shown that even in, people without kidney disease, that there's bone damage. So it's good for everyone in a family to reduce the consumption of those. And honestly, you can usually do a really simple switch. Granted, there is not a substitute for Coke or Pepsi. Like, I totally get it. But most other foods, like instead of getting Country Time lemonade, you probably can get the Walmart brand of lemonade mix. There's a lot of substitutes you can do to still have some familiar foods, or else, you find to have a little bit more simplicity in your diet and have it less processed. And that's so powerful.
Oh, yeah. Plant-based.
Yeah. So the other big sources that'll catch people a lot of times are dairy. Will get us. I mean, we are a cheese-loving country. And, you can fit it in here and there, but the way we eat cheese is pretty high in phosphorus, or, the dairy products. Very heavy portions of meat actually have a load of phosphorus in them, which is, again, like why I'm not a fan of pushing a ton of meat just because your albumin is 3.5, which is normal. But yeah, meat can have a ton of phosphorus in it. Bad guys that aren't really bad guys, beans, whole grains, brown rice, those get put on the bad list all the time. Like, don't eat those. They got a lot of phosphorus. And you know what? We don't even absorb most of that phosphorus. It is less than if you were to have chicken. So those are some foods you can still consume. The one that is like on the fence is nuts. So nuts are organic. They have organic phosphates. You don't absorb all of it. But it's super duper duper easy to eat so many nuts. So some people will throw their phosphorus up because instead of having, like a few sunflower seeds, they eat like the whole thing because they're driving in the car and they're, like chewing on them and spitting them out. So nuts can be either way. The second most powerful tool with your phosphorus, though, is those darn phosphate binders. Love them or hate them. They do a good job at keeping your phosphorus down. And so finding the trick for you to get them in on a regular basis can be super duper powerful. And it can, give you a little bit more flexibility with your diet as well.
Awesome. Another test that's important, and one that I have a friend that's dealing with, is PTH. Intact PTH, and on here they had a range of 150 to 600. How important is vitamin D and PTH? Because one thing what my friend had told me, she's on 2 different transplant lists. Yeah. One hospital will take her with the high PTH, and one made her inactive because of the high PTH and maybe suggested surgery. How important is the PTH level and vitamin D with kidney patients?
Yeah, PTH, all those bone labs, they're doing all sorts of works on your cardiovascular system when they're out of line. PTH is really kind of a booger. There's a lot of things that play into it. Some of it is the dosing at the unit of your vitamin D analog. As a patient, your biggest responsibility in keeping your PTH down is keeping your phosphorus down. Those two are their best friends. If phosphorus is going to go up, if phosphorus goes up, it'll eventually push PTH up. So the biggest thing you can do proactively is keep your phosphorus normal to keep your PTH down. And if you have a normal phosphorus and your PTH is still high, then hopefully your team at the dialysis unit has a pretty good action plan with there's a couple different medications that are super helpful. And for some people, that surgery, the parathyroidectomy, it's a pretty minor surgery. But for some people that is appropriate. So of course you don't want that as your first option. But yeah, PTH is huge for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. So again, why I'm doing this show, because I just want people who are dealing with this disease, or maybe not have kidney disease, maybe have diabetes and hypertension, to show how important dietary is in this process. Because, again, 9 out of 10 people have stage 3 kidney disease and don't even know it. And if you're eating foods that got you there, I mean, if you continue to eat the same food, it would seem like it would get you to stage 5 sooner than later, right, Jess? I call stage 3 that critical point where you can, I mean, at any point, I guess, other than 4, you can stop that process, but it's really no turning back. And it comes to a point of preserving kidney function.
Sure. And Steve, something I've thought a lot about is, even if you're on dialysis, people have different levels of function. Some people have a lot of kidney function, even though it's not enough to clear toxins. And you want to keep all the kidney function you possibly can have, because it gives you flexibility. I had a lot of patients, they still had a good amount of kidney function left. And honestly, they didn't really have to watch potassium. They didn't have to watch their fluids quite as much. Because they had that kidney function. So just because you end up on dialysis doesn't mean like, oh, well, I guess I'm already here, so, oh, well. Like, being proactive means that you are able to have so many more choices that don't cause you harm for much longer.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback off what you said, you're right, because I know kidney patients that had still had kidney function, but not enough to clear the toxins. And they came twice a week, like Monday and Saturday.
Yeah. There's a really interesting discussion. It's not widely accepted in the world of nephrology about, they call it intermittent dialysis. But instead of people going straight from like no dialysis to 3 times a week, is maybe utilizing the dietary plus, incremental dialysis. Using that plus maybe once a week, and then maybe over time twice a week, and then eventually 3 times a week. But instead of just going straight to 3 times a week.
Oh, absolutely. I never even thought about that. Wow.
So,
yes, yeah. It is. Potassium. I know that's a big one because it can cause sudden death if you don't watch your numbers. The goal they have here is 3.5 to 5.5. How important is potassium? Because that's a big one for renal patients, because a lot of things they like having in it, like fruits, like the bananas, dates, dry fruit, kiwi, mango, nectarine, oranges, melons, vegetables, potatoes. A lot of people like French fries and stuff like that. But how important is potassium, and what can happen if it's not kept in check?
So definitely you don't want to end up in the ER with high potassium levels or to die from it. Obviously, right? No one wants to end up in the hospital just from having high potassium levels. It's really interesting. The guidelines on potassium have changed, and they're just releasing this year. They're coming out hopefully in a couple months, the new KDOQI guidelines on it, which is your potassium restriction is dependent on your labs. What that means is that honestly, most people have way, way, way more flexibility with potassium than you think you would. Here's one of the number one, this is the number one biggest myth that drives me up the wall, because to me, honestly, it damages people, is that potassium hurts your kidneys. Potassium does not hurt your kidneys. It's just that your kidneys can't filter it later on. So it's actually really good early on, if you don't have a potassium restriction, to include some high potassium foods. It helps you balance your blood pressure better. So the main point, though, for dialysis patients is it's so individualized. So you want to know what your number is. You want to know what your number is. And then you want to talk with your team about how you can add some flexibility. I used to have my patients, if they're like, man, like bananas are my favorite food, I'm really missing them, or potatoes. I say, okay, well, how about, like the week before labs, don't binge on it, but why don't you just have a banana and let's see what your potassium level is. And, they'd have a banana and their potassium level would be fine. So I'd be like, it looks like you're okay. You probably have a banana once a week. And they were thrilled. Like, just having some of those foods you missed and knowing how much you can have of them. Again, like, it's about having choice. My favorite phrase is, you're not cheating, you're choosing, right? You don't cheat on your renal diet. you choose to eat something different, and you should have all the power to choose, meaning you know how much you can have, and if it's going to not, know how much before it's not going to go well for you. That's the best freedom you can have, is knowing what you can choose and what foods you can choose for your diet.
Now, what you just said, why do a lot of dietitians and facilities don't, like, I know each dietitian is individualized,
Sure.
but why they don't speak like you do? Is it because they fall into a corporate blueprint of what the facility wants them to do? I
I
mean,
don't know. I mean, everyone has their own style. One of the things that we do at in one of the like little niches of my business is we do trainings for dietitian, because I do feel like you can get sucked into a negativity within the medical culture, and even within dialysis. Like we're here again. There sometimes there can be a negative undertone, which is too bad, because this is people's life. Like, you have to be there 3 times a week, and they have to be there too. And you do get like this little family, like they're gonna be bickering between staff and patients, because you see each other all the time. But I don't know why, but I just know for our part, we just launched a course for dietitians on hemodialysis, because we wanted to kind of help up level the quality of care a little bit, so that people can practice in a way where patients are treated like adults, and they give them choices, and they help them, like, you're there to care for them. It's called health care, right? You're there to care for them, and to be a companion. And some people are not ready to make changes. And you know what? If that's what they choose, okay, like, so you choose that, but I can still be a cheerleader, right? I can still be a support person. If you would like that service, I'm there for you, but I'm not there to force an agenda on you. It's your life, it's not mine. But I want to be a resource if I can.
Right. All right. I know we're getting down. It's like 10 till.
That's okay. If we go over a little bit, I have a couple extra minutes.
Okay. So one question I want to ask before the next one is, with patients who got kidney disease and they at stage 4.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, I know the answer, but I just want other people to hear. Why do their diet change, where they may tell them to eat less protein, and then once they cross over to renal failure and get on dialysis, they tell them to increase their protein?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, before you're on dialysis, obviously protein is one of the things that your kidneys filter out. That's not the only way it interacts with your kidney function, but to keep it simple, your kidneys are part of the metabolism of protein. It's one of the things that, they help you absorb. So a lot of protein puts a lot of extra work on them. Once you're on dialysis, the process of dialysis itself is fairly strenuous on the body. There is, blood going in and out. Some tissues are broken down, and you need some protein to repair those. So the recommendation is 1.2. These numbers, you're gonna be like, who cares about the numbers? These numbers are really important. I'll tell you why. Before dialysis, we aim for like 0.6 to maybe at the very highest 0.8. Some people really low. When you're on dialysis, the recommendation generally is 1.2. A normal American eats 1.2 grams per kilogram of protein. That's just how our diets are. So you don't technically have to like push and eat a ton of protein. That unfortunately, again, is an old message that is still repeated in dialysis all the time. But you just have to eat a normal amount. And if you're struggling with your appetite, which can be a problem for people with dialysis, then you're going to want to tune in with your care team and see if you can resolve that and find some ways to get some, overall nutrition in. It's not just about protein. It's overall like the quality of your diet. Those vitamins and minerals that are in our foods, they are just as powerful as protein.
Wow. Thank you for answering that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then another one that I consider is important. I mean, it's more than what we talked about, but we don't have the time to talk on everything. I wanted to highlight the very important ones. And this next one, I believe, is fitting, the KT over V, which is very important. And one result that a lot of patients don't maybe understand, maybe they're new and maybe the dietitian didn't break down KT over V, or the person may not be just not, the health literacy of all this, may not understand it. So can you explain the importance of KT over V and dialysis?
Yeah.
And
I always feel like this is your lab, like as the nurses, like KT over V is your thing. But I mean, very simply, KT over V is if you're getting enough dialysis, period.
Okay.
Your kidneys, when they're healthy, they're working, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's a lot of time. And you're getting dialysis maybe for 3 to 4 hours, 3 times a week. So 12 hours versus, I don't know how many hours, 24 times 7 is, but that's just a little bit. So the biggest way that you can keep your KT over V up is just show up for your treatments. And if you notice as a patient, always be proactive for yourself. If you notice you're not feeling good, keep a tab on that number. You may need your time changed. You may need your access looked at. Either of those things can impact that number for sure.
Right. And also staying on treatment for the recommended period of time.
Yeah. I mean, signing off treatment, you're giving away a few of those precious minutes that you have to get your blood cleaned out. And even coming back to that very important lab phosphorus, some of the research shows that you get the most phosphorus cleared out at the end, like almost towards your like end of 3 to end of 4 hour mark. So if you want to have an extra big little like oomph on your phosphorus, it's stay for your whole treatment because you do get some phosphorus cleaned out, but it's not right at the beginning because of how blood balance and homeostasis is.
Wow, that's very important to know, because I didn't even know that. And you got some patients, they get off like an hour before they're supposed to, or they may get mad or got to do something. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so one more, and then we'll call it a night. How important is maintain fluid gain between 1 to 3 liters between treatments?
Okay, this one is honestly the magic in feeling good. If you want to feel good with dialysis, it is being able to figure out your fluid balance. The more fluid you put on and the more that has to get taken off, most likely the worse you're going to feel afterwards, because it is a lot for your body to rebalance this like fluid going in and out of the blood and the body cells and that sort of thing. None is, for some people, they come in, they never gain fluid because they're still urinating quite a bit. You don't want to dehydrate yourself to get your fluids down, but not excessively drinking obviously is important. But the biggest one, the number one biggest thing driver of fluid, hands down, it is not fluid, it is salt, period. It is not fluid. Salt drives thirst. That is how our body works. It's a physiological mechanism. If you eat a lot of salt, you cannot help but drink. And to fight that is practically torture.
Right.
So if you want to get your fluids down and feel better with dialysis, the best thing you can do is target salt and see where you're getting extra sodium in your diet. Be careful if you're going to eat out or use fast food, what you're going to be choosing. Those are going to be really, really critical pieces to getting your fluid down. And, a lot of people, once they figure out that piece, they don't struggle with their fluids anymore.
Wow. Very impactful information. And and again, we're down to limited time, but we definitely want to have you back, Jess, please, because I definitely want to talk about transplant nutrition, because I'm sure it may vary a little bit with transplant patients when it comes to their renal diet. But how can people reach out to you if they have questions, or do you do private duty or telehealth?
Yes, so there's 6 dietitians on my team. I think my website's on my name there, kidneyrd.com.
Sure.
We primarily focus on people before dialysis. And so that's where you can reach out to us. But you can go over to my Facebook page, kidneyrd.com. I do a live Monday through Thursday. I haven't done it yet today, but I have to do it sometime.
Right.
I do a live there. Mostly we're talking about ways to preserve your kidney function. But many of the principles translate if you're on dialysis. And, we are champions for the impact of nutrition. You can also go to our nonprofit, which is Renalign, RENALIGN, like renal, and then align, renalign.org. And our whole platform is advocating for nutrition as a first-line treatment.
Okay, let me, what is it? Spell that again.
I'll put it in the chat here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's we're
okay.
new, but I just feel like you can't not know about nutrition. In our society, we glamorize gluttony a little bit, which is too bad. Nutrition should be the same as brushing our teeth. It's something that allows us to live well. And there's no reason that it has to be, like we call people that eat healthy health nuts. Like, it's crazy to treat yourself well and eat healthy. Like, I don't know how that got into our culture that we think eating healthy is crazy. I think it's crazier to to feel bad all the time or to be sick, So there's just so much power with nutrition. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be real simple.
Absolutely.
Definitely check us out there.
So this is it right here, right? Renalign.
Yep, that's our nonprofit.
Yeah. So guys, go to this website. I mean, it's great information there. Awesome dietitian. I mean, she done broke it down to you. And I mean, what more can I say? I mean, wow. So again, I know you got to go. We had some comments, but we're I'm sorry, I didn't mean it.
Yeah, I just seen comments, questions. I have about 10 more minutes or so. I can answer any questions.
Oh, okay. We have one from Angela Perret. Hey, Angela. She said, but it's also good to check on the time you require to do your treatment. That was one of my problems. They tried to put me on 4 hours when I only needed 2. Have you seen this happen, Jess, in your career?
Yeah, I've seen that happen before. And your body best. Some people don't feel good, really long treatments, but it's, the 4 hours is the standard that's recommended. It's harder to put someone on a lower amount and then have them keep going up. It's easier to put them on a higher amount and then have them cut back. Just psychologically, it makes a big difference. I don't blame the doctor if they start on 4 and then come back and back off to get you where you need to go. So yeah.
Right. Wow. So let me ask you this. Just give us some ideas to help patients keep thirst down.
The biggest thing is salt. That is huge. The other thing, we're in, this is August 6th. It's hot in the summer. If you are in heat, you're going to get thirsty because you're sweating, and, our response to heat is a thirst. So, if you don't have air conditioning, if you don't have a place you can go to cool, you can go to a library. A lot of them are even open with COVID, but libraries are good places to stay cool, or get yourself a fan. Those can be really impactful as well. If you're trying to cut back on I just always feel like before people are doing like eat popsicles, chew on ice.
Yes, that's what I was going to get. That's what I wanted to get to.
Like, before you go there, figure out why you're thirsty. Like, that's so, so important. Figure out why you're thirsty, because sometimes it's your medications. Sometimes it's how much salt's in your diet. Sometimes it's, I mean, there can be a ton of this. So sometimes it's the saline you get rinsed with at the end, that's salt water. So
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
figure out why you're thirsty first and have those conversations, because otherwise, honestly, you're always in this physiological battle. And you may have to employ some of those strategies while you figure it out. So, chew gum, get some popsicles, chew on some ice,
Lemon
have a
wedges.
water bottle with your measured amount and only drink from that. But don't put all your eggs in that basket. Figure out your thirst, because then you're going to be able to feel good for a long time, and you won't have to have it be a battle every day.
Mm-hmm.
And you should have your doctors look at your medication if you feel like you've cut back salt and you're still struggling with thirst. Like, do you have something there that's causing that problem? Like, really have a pharmacist or someone look at it and see if that might be it, because some medications do cause dry mouth and they drive thirst, and that's not good.
No, absolutely.
You have this huge problem that you're struggling with, but maybe you need to look at one of the medications you're taking in. So, and you may, anyways, that's a very complicated issue, but it's just something to consider.
Oh, awesome. So,
Yeah.
All right. One more thing. I want to invite you back on. I know I said it, but I know what I want to talk about. So much stuff. And I know I mentioned the transplant, but something else that came in mind that is very important, which made me think about what happened the other day in Beirut, Lebanon, with that explosion. But with natural disasters, such incidents like that, we hope that never happens here in the United States. But with the hurricanes that came up just a couple of days ago, they was pending. The diet for patients who can't get the treatment, because we know clinics close down during natural disasters, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I do want to talk about at a different time on.
Let's go through that. It's not hard, but you really want to know what to do. It's very important.
Yeah, the food to have, because I know there's a booklet out on the basic food, and a lot of that food is canned food. And so I know, again, as you mentioned about the salt, a lot of these canned foods are, processed, high sodium food. So it's almost like you got something that holds you over, but at the same time, you're kind of doing more damage than because you eat something high in salt, then you're going to start drinking water.
Yeah, I don't really like those lists, by the way, but let's talk about it next time.
Okay.
There's definitely some it's really simple strategies to know. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 things. When I taught in dialysis, I had a bulletin board, and it was like, what if it was you? And it's about emergencies. I was this little tornado at the top, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 things that are absolutely critical to know. We can go through that because it doesn't have to be hard. And some of those lists, I agree, they're kind of confusing. But yeah.
Oh, absolutely. All right, Jess. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and staying on past the time.
Sure.
And I'll be in touch with you for a date that we can revisit this.
Sure. Yeah, I hope that everyone found some value in this. And
I know I did. And Jared Brown
tips out there.
Very powerful information.
It can be tough, but just know that there's people cheering you guys on. This is for us, we're here to work towards kidney health, and that can look a lot of different ways for different people. But we're here to cheer you on, and be as supportive as we can. And we're working on resources. There's people that we love to support, and we love when we see people that are working hard on their own as well for their own health. So.
Absolutely. This has been an awesome show. Jessianna Saville from CEO of KidneyRD.com. Thank you so much for coming on Urban Renal Talk with Tamika and Steve. And I'll definitely be reaching out to you for a date for the next show.
Yeah, sounds good. Hey, thanks so much, Steve.
All right. Thank you. Take care and be safe.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Guys, this was an awesome show. I mean, let me put her information up. That's the website, renalign.org. if you need any information. But again, where else are you going to get? Oh, I know where else. Dad Vice TV. He be having every week Jen Hernandez, so check him out. But other than him and I mean, you can't get this information like this. It may be other people doing. I haven't heard of it, but we just want to make sure you get important information to live a quality life in spite of having kidney disease. And that's what we're going to continue to do. So if you want to reach out to Jess, that's the website, renalign.org. You can get a lot of information there on diet. You heard what she had to say. Again, this was an awesome show. And I can't wait till we talk about the disaster diet. Because like she said, it doesn't have to be expensive. Yes, Don, very expensive. And I want to be calling you right after the show. So be by your phone. I'm telling you now. Hey, Kim, thank you for joining. Leslie, Martin, Kathy, Sean, Tina, Miss Betty, Regina, Rolanda, Robert, Jackie, my cousin, Regina Flowers, Dave Cobb. Guys, thank you, everyone. Angela, Jared, Lisa, Clove Hitch, Don P. Elwoods, everyone that contribute to the conversation. Thank you so much. That's what we need to make this thing work. We don't have any hidden motives other than just education, so you can, again, be empowered to know what's going on with your labs, your treatment, and making sure everything is supposed to go the way it's supposed to go. So thank you guys for watching. God bless you. Have a good evening. Stay blessed and encouraged. And let me see. I don't think Uncle Jim was going to be tomorrow. He is rescheduling for next Friday. However, join us for the Lisa Baxter show Sunday. And I may even do an education show between Friday and Saturday. So be on the lookout for a kidney disease education moment. I want to talk about something pertinent to dialysis. It may be the machine, it may be your bath, but it's going to be something very educational that you should know as a kidney warrior, whether you're in center or at home. So thank you guys for watching. We love you. Stay blessed, and we see you soon. Peace.
I've been walking beneath streetlights. I've been walking, cause I can't find peace on these nights. I've been walking, but my strides are getting slower. Still I'm walking, but I don't know where I'm going. I've been looking for love, but only found deception. Told my secrets to some people who